Hey, good afternoon, everybody. 1 o'clock sharp. We like to be punctual here at Fetola. Let's see, we have 130 people already online, and I expect that number to grow a bit. So welcome to our very last webinar for 2024. Those of you that have attended our series of webinars would have hopefully got lots of value, and I'm pretty sure that this one's going to be more of the same. Today, we're going to be discussing a more practical series of steps and insights that you can take in order to 10x your success in 2025. Got a really great panel of specialists. Two of them are my Fetola colleagues at the office, and a third is one of our mentors. So without further ado, I'm going to share my slide deck, and I'm going to ask my colleague Mahlatse, who's our training manager, to get the proceedings kicked off with a little poll, as we always like to do. We always like to know who's in the room. So while I'm sharing my screen, Mahlatse, can you perhaps pop the poll up, please? Fantastic. So if everyone can just please make sure that they complete the poll, that'd be amazing. Excellent. So first question is, where are you all from? I see, as usual, Gauteng representing. Team, just let me know if you can see my screen. All good?
All good, Anton.
All good, Anton.
Fabulous. Okay, so where are you from? Where are you based? I see we've got Gauteng, the front runner. Other. I'd love to know where the other is. So one person out of 141 is from somewhere other than South Africa. Maybe they could just pop in the chat where they're from. It's always nice to get international or cross-border visitors. I see Andrew Masuku has a hand up. Andrew, is it you? Or are you just waving? The second question is, what are we hoping to get out of the webinar today? Number of different options that we've given you there. Networking, gaining insights. Many of you seem to want some expert advice on the strategies that you need for your business success for 2025. Get closer to future relevant opportunities. I do hope that you are all signed up to our database, because we're constantly putting out calls for programs, opportunities, ecosystem initiatives, events. So please make sure that you do stay close to us. And if you're not already registered on the Fetola database, please do sign up after this webinar. We'd love to keep you in the loop of all the stuff that we're working on and putting out constantly. Okay, I'm going to end that poll, and I'm going to start kicking off the day proceedings. So the name of this webinar and the kind of positioning of it is about what are the key strategies, key tips, key insights, and practical tools that you need in order to improve your success next year. It's always a good time towards the end of the year to take stock, look at what you've achieved, perhaps look at some of the areas that you still need to focus on, identify some of the gaps, and make sure that next year you take steps to strengthen and shore those up. And we've, like I said, got 3 specialists in the room who are going to be supporting us with this conversation. And then at the end, very excited to open the floor to questions. So if you do have any questions, you can populate them as we go, as we are sort of engaging in the discussion with the panelists. If something springs to mind or you've got a particular question, you can just pop it in the chat. Otherwise, you can save it to the end where we're going to allow sort of 15 to 20 minutes for specifically your most pressing business questions and challenges. And speaking of business challenges, let me just flip the slide here. Sorry, someone's got their mic on. If we can just mute there. Thanks, team. We asked you when we put out the call for the opportunity for this webinar, we asked a question at the end: what is the biggest challenge, or what is the one thing that you're grappling with? And the answers were really quite illuminating. We got several hundred answers and responses. And this was the sort of summary of everything. And the bigger the word, usually the bigger, the more people said it was a challenge. So it was quite interesting for us as a team to look at this. I think the usual suspects were there: funding, sales, market access, finance. Interesting one was compliance. And, you can see on the screen just the different challenges, and probably resonate with a lot of these yourselves in terms of the things that you find are holding back the growth of your business. Couple of interesting ones there I thought was innovation, investment readiness. I was just wondering if that was my colleague Martin from our team, who's the head of investment readiness here at Fetola. I thought he might have just slipped that in when we weren't looking, but that is definitely a really valid challenge. You can't access finance or funding if you don't make yourself an attractive proposition to the funding landscape. We will chat a bit about that as we go today. Logistics, expansion, operational costs, you can see them. There's a whole host of challenges across the board, and hopefully we're going to address a number of these today and give you some practical guidance and insights as to how you can strengthen those areas of your business. Just a very little quick intro about us. If those of you that don't know Fetola, or if this is your first webinar with us, we are business growth specialists. We've been around for almost 2 decades. We're very passionate about building businesses that last. And in terms of our proof points and our track record, the statistic that we're most proud of is that the entrepreneurs who've been through one of our accelerators, 87.3% of them are still in business 10 years later, which is 9 times the national average, which just goes to show that if you get the right support at the right time, you really can build a business that lasts and thrives. This is me. I'm the strategic head of SME support at Fetola. I've been with the organization since the inception, and I do a little bit of everything, including hosting webinars, which I'm doing today. What I want you to just create a bit of a framework for our discussion. If you look on the slide, you can see what we call the Fetola success wheel. And essentially, this is a model that we've refined from other models and developed over the years. It's very much the underpinning of the strategic work that we do with entrepreneurs who are in one of our accelerators. And essentially, the success wheel looks at 5 key elements of any business. You could call them the 5 pillars. You could essentially say that they're like the 5 foundational areas of any business. Those being people, processes, finance and governance, customers, and social and environmental. And under each of those, there's a sort of further breakdown. You can see it's on the board, so I don't need to belabor it. but essentially it covers all the important strategic and operational areas that any business needs to master if they're going to be sustainable and successful and build the right platform for growth. And the challenge often comes in where maybe one or two of these pillars are not as strong as the others. And that's often where our growth gets constrained, or we get held back, or we find that maybe we can access markets, but we don't have the systems to efficiently service those markets properly, or we haven't created the opportunity to raise finance because we don't have good financial record keeping, and therefore it hampers our growth. So the intention today is to sort of, through our discussions with the panel, just tease out some key tips, key sort of success metrics in each of these different pillars that you can hopefully take away and think about, research further, and start to implement in your business. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first guest expert. I'm really delighted, and she's going to talk to the people pillar and the social and environmental pillar. And it's a great privilege and pleasure to introduce Catherine Wijnberg, who's our CEO here at Fetola. Many of you would have heard of Catherine. She's just finished writing her second book on entrepreneurship and sort of the Fetola model and what we've learned over the years, which is called The Art of Acceleration, and you're going to see it on shelves soon. And I've also included a QR code at the end of this webinar for anyone who wants to pre-order this fantastic book. Catherine has basically built Fetola up from a little tiny 3-person business from her kitchen way back 20 odd years ago to most probably the largest and most respected enterprise development and business growth agency in the country. We've got 35 or so core staff at our head offices in Cape Town, and we've got about 65 to 75 consultants all around the country working with us to build businesses that last. So without further ado, thanks, Catherine. I'm going to kick off by asking you from a people pillar perspective. So that would be your HR, your leadership, everything, your partnerships, everything to do with the people side of your business. What key strategies or tips would you like to share with the audience today?
Thanks, Anton. I don't know if it's possible just to kill the slide while I'm speaking. That would be great if it's possible.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thanks. Thanks so much for that. Yeah, leadership. So the focus of this webinar is about how we can really end the year on a high and be hitting it hard in 2025. So I think my 3 tips on people is, first of all, it's about leadership and leadership of the self. This time of year, people are often exhausted. There's a sense of, wow, there's a lot of overload. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting invited to 3 and 4 events every week. We're all trying to finish the calendar and get everything that we thought we were going to do in the year done. And so this is really the time where you need to be caring for yourself as a leader. So first of all, self-care, to maintain a good balance yourself. Particularly as a leader, I'm always fond of saying that people need to moderate their behaviors. Nobody wants a leader that's one day comes in and they're at the top of the world and they're busy cracking open the champagne, and the very next day they're so depressed and miserable. No people want to work with you when you're like that. So maybe the first tip is to say, really moderate your behavior, care for yourself, and be the leader that you would want to work with, because it's very important for your staff, but also for your clients. So maybe that's the first thing. And then the second thing is we've actually just in Fetola, we're busy going through a huge KPI review on all of our staff. So really going one by one, each individual, each department, saying, are you really clear on what it is that your job is? Are you very clear on what it is that you need to do? And if you just were going to measure that with one key performance indicator, what would that be? And so it's a very positive exercise. I recommend that you do that and that you do that with your staff, even with yourself, is just say to yourself, okay, my job is leading the organization. If there was one thing that I had to get right, what would it be and how would I measure it? And so we're finding that's really positive. Everybody is really energized, even though it's exhausting at the end of the year. People are saying, okay, I get it. Yes, I get that. I understand very clearly what my role is. And so that's something that is really vital, can really be good in your team and energize your team, and put everybody on steroids. So what it is as a result of that KPI conversation, people are not just being busy, but they're really directing their work and their energy in the right direction in order for your business to succeed. And then the third thing for me is the 3 R's, and this is kind of just the standard. And the 3 R's for whenever you're working with a team is, first of all, it's really important that they feel respected. So respect is just about treating people right, making sure that they've got proper contracts. You've got good work environment for them. They really feel they feel seen and heard. So that's the first R. The second R is that they should be recognized. And this for me is very pertinent, because before I started Fetola, I worked for another organization where I didn't feel recognized. The person I was working for would just take my ideas and pass them off as their own. And that didn't make me feel good. It was one of the reasons that I left that organization to start something of my own. So just be sure that you recognize your people, that you include them in decision making. For example, if you're setting up a set of performance indicators, or you want a new structure and method, instead of just saying, well, this is how it is, go in, listen to the people, respect them, recognize them, use them to develop the system that you're wanting to run, because then what you'll do is you'll get much better buy-in from your team. And then the third R is reward. And I know with small business, often people say, oh my God, I can't afford to pay the salaries that corporates can, and I can't reward people. It's just realizing that as a small business, you can do things differently. And sometimes that reward is giving people flexi time, or maybe allowing them a bit more time if they have a sick child, giving them the space to be able to take that time off. And using other ways, so it doesn't necessarily need to be a cash or salary. It can sometimes be rewarding them, with an acknowledgement for good work done. So yeah, so those will probably be my 3. I hope that lands well.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Kathy. And then the other sort of pillar that we would like you to cover today is the social and environmental. Some people in the room might know that Fetola is a very passionate sort of proponent for more sustainable ways of doing business. We ran a very successful circular economy accelerator in the last couple of years, and are increasingly involved in the green and sustainable space. We've run a number of sort of sustainability focused accelerators over the years, and I know it's a passion of yours. So from a social and environmental perspective, for those businesses or entrepreneurs in the audience who want to, improve their own kind of footprint and minimize their own impact on the environment, and maybe also want to make more of a social impact, what would your guidance be there?
I think the first thing is, when we talk social and environmental, we think of this concept of ESG. And ESG in its 3 components is, first of all, governance. And I think as small businesses, we often get the governance thing wrong. We just think, I'm not going to worry about that until later. So one of the important things is to make sure that your governance is right, so you are compliant. I noticed that compliance was one of the big question marks in the word cloud earlier. So make sure your governance is right. So things like that you do have contracts for your staff, that you are up to speed with SARS, because those are the kind of things trap you later. So I do think that governance as part of ESG is really important. The second thing is social. I'm just really going to touch on that quickly. In South Africa, there's this huge drive for job creation. We all know as entrepreneurs, you can't create jobs unless you're profitable. And so it's important to say that if you're going to look for social impact, make sure that you're first of all caring for your business before you start to create jobs. And then another one on that is that if your social impact is important, make sure that you're recording it and reporting it. And that then also comes to environment. A lot of people do good work in the environment, but they're not recording. So they're not using that to build an asset. So for example, if one of your market opportunities or your market benefits is that you're water reducing or your carbon footprint reducing, just make sure that you measure that so that you can report it, because it's only when you can showcase your results that people can value it. Yeah, and so from an environmental point, the last thing I want to say is that if you're a business that wants to be profitable, if you want to be people friendly and planet positive, then just take a look at circular economy for small business. That's something that we're really passionate about, and stay close. We've got some really cool training coming up on that that will be launched in the early part of next year. That's it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks very much. So that brings me to my next esteemed panelist, and he's going to chat about finance and governance, and no one really better and more qualified to talk about this particular topic than Grant Prince, who's the head of investments at Fetola. Grant is a real specialist. He's been responsible for putting together both our own fund as well as working with several other impact first funds that we are privileged to be a part of. I won't go into too much detail there. It's all information is on our website. But Grant, from a finance and governance perspective, many of the I've noticed already in the chat that there was quite a common thread that people have started something, they're struggling a little bit to access the finance that they need to grow. They've been given an opportunity, but the access to capital is holding them back. And obviously, it's about the right capital for your business at the right time in terms of your stage of growth and your journey. So what insights or advice would you give to the listeners, the audience, when it comes to the financial pillar in their business?
Certainly. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much, Anton, for that intro. No pressure. Yeah, afternoon, everyone. Really nice to be with you all this afternoon. I think when it comes to access to finance and investment readiness, I'm sure you've heard these terms so much, and seeing that funding is a key need for a lot of you. It is important to help you start the right way, to help you grow the right way, and to help your business scale. Definitely, we certainly don't have the money to do it ourselves, most of us. I think the most important thing to recognize before you start on a fundraising journey or try to access capital for your growth needs is to recognize that investment readiness is all about you, right? You're the business leader. You're the one with a vision. You're the one trying to, bring the vision to life. So the way you behave and how you conduct yourself and your affairs is very important. So the same thing like with managing your staff and your team. If you don't look after yourself as the leader, then you won't be able to do a good job at building a strong team and managing a capable team. So just recognizing that the way you behave, the way you conduct yourself, how you engage with potential customers, suppliers, your staff, all of that has an impact at the end of the day on whether or not investors will want to do business with you. So, it's not just about handing out money or getting grants or things like that from people. It's about doing business with potential funders, giving them something of value in exchange for the capital that you're requiring from them. So that would be the first thing. The second thing, and I know this is not touching on the technical stuff yet, is to be very clear about the vision and the direction, in which you want to grow. So really putting in the work on being clear on what your growth plan is, and being able to be really clear about how that is an opportunity that you would like funders to partner along with you on, right? So this is a big one that we see often in funding applications that come through to us, is that the growth plan or how the business leader plans to grow the business is not clear. And so then oftentimes, the funding application just ends there. So being clear on that. And then thirdly, raising funding for your business is actually about everything else but the funding, but the amount of funding that you need. So it's about everything else in the wheel, except the things to do with finance. So if you want to get finance, look after everything else in the wheel. Look after your people, look after your customers, look after your suppliers, and try and really build good networks and relationships with them. So that's probably the kind of global soft stuff that I would start with. Clear vision, clear plan to grow towards and achieve that vision. And then, really being careful about investing in yourself as an entrepreneur, building your own your competencies, knowledge, experience, and the network and support structure that goes along with that. So that's the soft stuff, right? The second thing I would say that's probably the most important, and I know you've heard this so many times, they say record keeping, but I'm going to call it being organized. Nobody wants to do business with somebody that's not organized. We don't want to buy something from a shop where they don't have clear labeling on the packaging, or where the quality of the product is just poor. We don't want to take insurance from a company that doesn't respond to our needs or isn't able to give us the information when we need it. So being organized, record keeping, and all of that stuff, being compliant, is probably 20 to 30% of your funding application and your ability to access finance, right? So they say sales keeps you in business, but record keeping keeps you in business, right? So if you wanna build a business that lasts, developing the habits and teaching yourself to develop the habits of recording every rand and every cent, in the right place, so that you can firstly reflect on your income and expenses yourself at the end of every month or at the end of every week, so that you can make proper management decisions and proper decisions around how you want to allocate resources to grow the business further. So firstly, if the records are not useful to you, right, if you're not able to generate the numbers in the way that you can understand it and use it to make decisions and plan, then there's a bit more work to do on which accounting package we use, whether or not Excel is still serving our needs, or do we need to make a switch to maybe to something that we pay for on a monthly basis. When should we get out an accountant in or a bookkeeper in to help us if we don't understand what we're doing? How do we really maximize the training opportunities that are out there in the ecosystem to build our knowledge and understanding of how to better manage our finances and do this accounting thing, right? So we're all not accountants. I'm sure it won't be a very nice world to live in if we all were. But let's try and understand our numbers better and how best to record that and report back to ourselves, so that we know how the business is performing, right? Because remember, you're always investing in this business. You're investing your time, you're investing your money. So it needs to deliver a return to you first before you go to a funder and ask them for capital, because they are going to ask you what the return is for them, right? So that's the second thing. And then the last thing would be probably your network. So building your network. I think this financial capital is nice, and having access to cash that comes into the business is great. But that tends to follow your network. So if you're building a productive, professional or personal network, people that that can bring information to you that will serve you well, to know where to apply for finance or which opportunities to go for and which not. that is almost as good as the capital that comes into the business. And then lastly, I mean, something that we encourage the businesses to do that we invest in is to have a dashboard. So as a business owner, you almost want to know what are the key things that are moving the business forward, and how can you at a glance know that everything's okay? So having a kind of a dashboard to say how much cash is in the bank, am I spending faster than I'm earning? On the sales side, do we have enough leads so that we can get enough sales throughout the year? And then lastly, on the people side, so do we have enough skills? Can we get the right skills when we need it? And how can our support network or our support structure help us fill some of those skills gaps where we need it? So getting funding is about everything else but the word funding. Yeah, hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Grant. That's very helpful. And not the normal way one would approach it, but you need to listen to Grant because he knows what he's on about. He puts in funding applications and supports our entrepreneurs to do so every single day. So please take that advice to heart. If you do have any pressing questions for Grant, we will get to them later. I just noticed a message externally saying that we're at capacity. We can't let any more people in. So those of you that are in, feel honored to be here because we are bursting at the seams, which is fantastic. I'd like to just confirm, team, did Puseletso manage to get in?
Yes, she's here.
Okay, fabulous. Okay, I'm just going to introduce Puseletso. Quickly, just get my... There we go. Okay, so our next expert or specialist today is our colleague, one of our mentors in one of our programs, Puseletso. Her credentials speak for themselves. She's one of our very experienced mentors and very much in demand mentor. She's got a really nice all-round experience in working as an entrepreneur herself, as well as supporting entrepreneurs to achieve, their goals and dreams. Big focus on coaching and personal development. And the areas that we're going to ask Puseletso to chat a little bit about today are twofold. The first one being the customers pillar. So Puseletso, as we chatted about when we were prepping for this webinar, the customer pillar relates to everything to do with your sales piece, sales and marketing, your customer relationship management processes, how you find new customers and access new customers, how you build a brand and market yourself. So from that perspective, and whether you sell B2B or B2C, the kind of what would the universal tips and home truths and bit of guidance be that you could impart to the audience who are looking to grow their customer footprint over the next 12 months or so?
Lovely, Anton. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining in. And, we are preparing for 2025 and everything that as we prepare for our business growth, we need to look at our customers as they are the heartbeat of our businesses. So any business doesn't have customers, they are not in business, right? So the best thing that we need to do is to really build businesses that are customer centric. We need to really create platforms that are also communicating to the customer's needs. So majority of us, when we look at prioritizing the customer-centric culture, we are not always focusing on the systems that speaks or that are able to be user-friendly for customers to access our services or to get more information about our services. So it is very important that we create a culture where we place our customer as the center of our decision making. And when we do that, it's going to give you the ability to understand the pain points and to understand what the solutions are needed. Majority of us as small businesses, we always look at business and look at what we think customers are looking for. Yet the important part is to look at what are the needs of the customers that I am serving. And as we evolve and we enter now into the digital era, how are the communications going to improve in order for me to reach to these customers that I want to give them the service and the experience? Which is the second thing, the personalized experiences. The time is gone where we give a blanket approach to our customers when they come to our offices. We need to now be intentional. We need to give them a personalized experience, because that's how people will always remember us. They always say people will always remember you by how you made them feel, not what they got from you. What they got from you is expected because that's what they're paying for. But what will keep them is when you make them feel good. I think Kathy earlier on spoke about she left her work because she didn't feel like she was seen. And similarly to our customers, they leave our businesses when they don't believe that we see them, we hear them, and we understand what they need. So how we do that in terms of personalizing this experience is to collect data. Surveys that we do are important because that's where you will get the insight of how your customers are saying, what they're saying, and what they want, and how they want to be served. Being able to provide a customer satisfaction and loyalty programs is also key. But importantly, remembering little details that sometimes we oversee about your customer anniversary, the customer, what is it that they love that I will need to bring it closer to them. And the third thing under customers is retention. I mean, most of us are looking for generating leads, creating new, finding new clients, but we neglect the customers that we have in terms of retaining them, in terms of keeping them, not looking out of our businesses, because the competition is out there and everybody is coming with new ways of doing things. And if you don't up your game, you don't understand how to foster that deep relationship with your customer, you will lose that customer. So there's a book, I think I once, it was, I think I can't remember who it was, Peter. He spoke, the book called Why Did I Leave as a Customer? And that book for me opened my eyes, because we look at little things that sometimes we take for granted, because there's a culture of entrepreneurs, once they are used to a customer, they start becoming familiar with things. You can't be familiar with your customers. You need to find ways, try to wow and give them that opportunity to experience the new in your business. And I think, Anton, that's mainly a few things that I wanted to talk about under the customer care, customer experience, and also creating a customer-centric apps and services that will retain our customers. And that's basically
Great.
what I would like to give as a tip for now.
So thank you. Some really useful nuggets and insights there, particularly around, understanding what keeps your customer become, or what will convert them from just a customer into a customer for life. And I think that the businesses that understand that and really go all out to, consistently show up for their customers are the ones that generally don't have to look for new customers all the time. The other foundational area of the Fetola success wheel that we wanted you to just touch on was around systems and processes. And this is an often overlooked side of, a business and the growth of a business. And what we've seen over the years very much is that those businesses that have got good systems that are replicable, that are robust, that are not dependent on any one person for their success, are the businesses that tend to manage growth much better. What would your sort of high-level guidance be from a systems and processes point of view to the entrepreneurs in the room?
when we talk about systems, I think most SMEs or most businesses neglect this most important part of growing the business. I mean, in order for us to scale up, we need to have our processes in place, and we need to map them, and we need to document them, because knowing them in our heads is not going to help a business, as most people have the methodologies and how we do things is all known by the owner or the business owner, but the organization doesn't have a well documented business processes and system that are mapped and documented, so that it can be able to induct new customers, new employees, and understand the way of doing things. But also, it's not only about knowing how to do things, but this also will improve the way you do business, because there are so many things that are overlapping in our businesses that are time consuming, and also that can also be costly. So when you don't do proper processes and check what works now and what used to work and keeps on changing in a way that you can even automate, you might find that you could have been maximizing on the time that you could be making money. So in how you automate, I think recently we have seen how even big businesses are starting to even use WhatsApp. All of us have got WhatsApp as a tool, and as a accessible tool that is free, where you can automate your messages when a customer reaches to you. The first three steps before you can even do business there, it could have already been automated, where the client can already know what are the questions that are mostly asked, and if so that you understand their need. By the time you engage with the customers, you have already gathered more information of how you can support them. So automating is important. It's time efficient, and it will improve on your accuracy and enhance your productivity. The second thing is also implementing maybe integrated CRM system, where we can have all our customer information integrated. Majority of us as small businesses, it's like we work on silos systems that are not speaking to one another. By the time you want to send an email, you want to send newsletter, you want to send, it's like you work with so many multiple tools that sometimes you even forget the passwords, or you forget how to use them. So integrating on a CRM system is also a good way of doing business, because you can even access any of your information or business data anywhere, wherever you are. You don't always say, I'll only get back to you when I'm in the office. So we need to be smart in how to select the tools that will assist us, especially in automating and also improving on our systems and our processes in that regard. But lastly, I think the one thing is data analytics that inform your decision making. uh, you know, we have to sit down as small businesses to do a business strategy. In our annual business strategy, we need to come up with business development plan. But now, where do we get informed if we don't deploy this data analytics? That are the tools that will where we gain insight of our customer behavior, our operational performances, and also enabling quicker decisions, so that we can always keep on improving and becoming better. So those are the three key things under the systems and processes that I would like to encourage the people to consider looking into, especially because as small businesses, at one point we want to move away from being too operational. We need to start employing more people who come into the business to take over, but they need to understand the culture, they need to understand the way of doing things in the organization. But most importantly, we want to scale up. So in order for you to do some similar things that you are doing in the current business, you should have documented and have a systems and processes in place that will allow you to do so. Thanks, Anton.
Great, thank you. Some real gems there as well. I think we'd all agree. And while I've got you in the spotlight, I'm going to maybe address. So now's the time where we can open up the floor to some questions, specifically around the topics that our resident panel or our various panel members have discussed and given you some high-level insights into. And the first question is for you, Puseletso, and the question was from Ria Betswe Mafisa, and their question was, how do you inspire your staff to be client-centered and passionate? I really feel that some of my assistants are blind to the importance of putting the client first. how do you know when it's time to get rid of someone who's not willing to be developed and grow their knowledge? And I'm sure that this is a challenge that many of the audience grapple with.
Yes, that's a very good question to ask, and also for us to learn and implement the right systems. The starting point for me has always been the performance appraisal. So, in order for us to work on what something that is tangible, we need to always do performance reviews in terms of how have you been doing, and along what you measure is the customer experience and customer service. You can't just thumb suck it and say, no, I saw you one day, you didn't treat the customer right. No. There should be also systems where you get feedback from your customers that will always ask you how were they treated while they were in the business, what kind of support they would have preferred, and who serviced them. And with that is where now you can measure against the performance appraisal. People, when they are not measured on their performance, sometimes they do not take anything seriously. And when the customers also are not always asked about giving feedback and how they experience the service, people don't realize the impact of their service to the customers. And that has always shown that the business that is able to do assessment or reviews has improved in customer experience because they always want to make sure that they improve on the performance. So that is one way. And how do you know that the person is ready to leave? Is when they are not meeting the, maybe on the scorecard, they're not meeting a 3 or a 4 or a 5 every time you do evaluations, then it can lead to the dismissal. Remember, you need to also have, especially with the labor law now, we can't just fire and hire. We need to also have a proper system that shows that you have done all that you could to improve the performance of that particular employee in order for you to release them. So doing a performance review is one of the systems that can be used, and you can protect yourself as a business owner not to go to CCMA for dismissing people without any
Yeah.
merit.
Great, thank you. Great answer there, Puseletso. Kathy, I'm going to maybe direct a question your way now, if I may. The question is from Gurley Koza, and Gurley asked, what emerging market trends should businesses be paying attention to in order to accelerate their growth? And she's from GKC Consultants and Construction. So what sort of overall, I suppose, macroeconomic trends and emerging market trends should be factored in?
Yeah, so I think technology obviously is key. So everybody's using technology. That's your game changer. That's the way that you can get into these global markets efficiently and effectively. I think the other one that's coming up is unique place of origin. So if you're going to be, I don't know what it is that you're looking to put into the global market, but it is really important in a very competitive manufacturing global world, just to make sure that if you are exporting product, that they have a very clear country of origin. And by that, I mean that you're owning the space that can't be copied by competitors. So we don't want to be putting product out into the international market that is maybe not quite yet product ready, market ready. You're not really able to take it and scale it. That's just an invitation to other organizations, countries like China and India, to say this is a great idea. Let's copy it and rather do it cheaper and better than we do. So yeah, so country of origin, really making sure that there's a good connection to who you are and what it is that you're especially doing, your niche market. Make sure that's really all over the product or the service that you're selling. And then probably the last point at the moment is there's a big drive for value for money. So globally, economies are struggling. We don't know what's going to happen now with this change as Trump's back in America. Who knows? Everything, all the cards are up in the air. So we probably just have to be really keep an eye on that and be able to be agile with our marketing strategies. But definitely internally in South Africa and also across South Africa and across the world, it's about value for money. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be the cheapest, not at all. It means that you have to, when people pay for stuff, when they pay for your products, they really need to feel that they're getting more than they expected. And so sometimes that is about being cost effective, yes, but it's also about saying you give more quality than expected, or maybe there's added benefits that people didn't that people were surprised to get. Yeah, so value for money is really key. Technology is your vehicle for getting there, and then make sure that you have a very clear place of origin. So it's very clearly yours. If you can get IP on that, that's also great. But these days it's very, very difficult to fight an IP legally across the world anyway. So I wouldn't just rely on that. I would just make sure that you own it, very clearly yours. It's South African of origin, and people can't take that away from you. Hope that's useful.
Great. Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, great. I think that's very useful. Then there was a question directed at Grant. Is there a specific template, Grant, for different companies when one wants to have a dashboard? So I think your mention of a dashboard definitely resonated. Quite a lot of people commenting, saying that's a great idea. Can you maybe give them a bit of guidance as to someone who wants to implement the dashboard system in their business? Where would they start?
Thanks for the question, Anton, and thank you to the audience. You'd start with a piece of paper, right? A pen and a piece of paper. That's probably the first dashboard, and write down, make 3 columns. In the one column, you put cash flow. So you can put in there your balance in your bank account. You can put in how many months of operating costs you can cover. You can put in things like, I don't know, your record keeping system, or do you make profit this month or not? And what is your target, your profit target or your sales target, the number, you can put it there. So, I mean, usually Excel is a nice place to start, and you can update it in the lines on a weekly, monthly, or annual basis. In the second column, I'll put people. Or talent. So you can either say, you've got a skills gap here, how do you fill it? So just things that you want to always be on your mind. So whenever you're dealing with stakeholders, customers, or whenever you meet someone, you almost want to fit them into those buckets to say, are you going to help me build my cash flow? Are you going to help me by joining my team and adding the right skills and talent that I need? And then the third column is, are you a customer? So you're going to help me improve my sales. So that's kind of where, some of our companies are. It's basically on Excel. I know more sophisticated, businesses that are a bit more mature, they can put it in the management system. So either you have a kind of a software, company-wide software, where you can generate dashboards that link to your various systems and processes that Puseletso nicely kind of taught us about. So that's where I would start, in a book or in Excel on your computer. And if you've got an integrated software solution into the cloud.
Great, thanks. And there's another question for you, Grant, before you go. What happened? This is from Lutando Galada, and Lutando's question is, what happens if a business has a prototype of a product? It could potentially be a very large-scale product from a supply chain perspective, so there's obviously potential for it, but they need finance to get it into the market. What would your guidance be there? Where would they find a potential funder for it, and what would the right approach be?
Yeah, if you don't have a rich uncle, then you need to find a rich uncle somewhere else, right? So I think the South African ecosystem is very healthy in terms of its network of competitions where you can win grants, you can pitch for funding. There are some incubators and accelerators that offer grant funding as part of its services. So grant funding competitions, it's a bit of a slow burn. And it can take a bit of time, but that's good. Government has grants for research and development as well. So I think if you've got a prototype, you obviously want to validate that, there's a market need. And so a nice way to kind of do that is maybe if you can give it to a customer and have somebody buy if they can buy that prototype and you can sell it, that's a perfect way to kind of get cash in and build another one. But definitely organizations like TIA I think the Department of Science and Innovation, or Science and Technology, has got a lot of incentive programs and grant programs that offer proof of concept and market testing capital to businesses. Also look offshore, so there's a lot of dollar-based competitions and pound-based competitions that provide a lot of funding to South African businesses. So international kind of grant type competitions that has a focus on innovation, or has a focus on, health tech or ed tech, or some of these new technology concepts. So definitely Silicon Valley, London-based organizations do a lot of investing into South Africa through these competitions and grant programs. Hope
Awesome.
that helps, guys.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Grant. There's a question for Puseletso. And the question is from Prudence Jackson, and she asks, as a new business that still works mobile, because we lack funds for office space, how do we get new clients to trust us enough to do business with us? So how do you fake it till you make it, essentially?
Fake it till you make it. So there are many ways in how you can actually make a client trust you. Firstly, you need to remove that idea that a client will not trust you, because it is a self-sabotage on its own. I have seen how
Nice.
people how people have it in their mind that, no, I don't think people will trust what I say. And that becomes a blockage in their ability to approach customers. Secondly, there are people who have believed in what you offer and who can actually give a word or two in terms of testimony based on your service and how you have actually delivered. And that could be also another way of using other people's voices to build trust with your new customers. Thirdly, everybody understands that today there's an online business. If we can trust buying groceries online, where we haven't even been in a shop to select our own food, people are starting to now understand that business done online, it can also be trusted. But remember, you yourself, based on your profile, based on how you actually capture all the services that you have rendered to clients, and being able to also ask them for referral, ask them for recommendation, and also even audio or video messaging that they send to you as a testimonies, builds rapport and builds trust in clients in trusting what you offer. There are multiple ways in how you can do it, and sometimes you can even do video recordings of yourself creating a product, delivering to a client, and a client receiving it. That on its own is what people like seeing, to say, she is trustworthy. I have seen her deliver this product to this particular person, and I can trust that she can do something for me. So trust in yourself first, and the energy will reciprocate.
Great feedback. And then on a practical level, what I always like to advise people to do, and it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but if it's only you in the business and you want to create an impression of scale, have different email addresses: finance at, HR at, sales at. It all comes to you. Makes it seem like you got quite a big team. There's a question for Catherine. Catherine, well, I'd like to direct this one at you. There's a really nice question from Ressel, from the Box Shop Digital Hub. And Ressel asks, in this day and age, how should one look at strategy in terms of human capital versus technology? Where does the balance lie? You don't so far to one extreme that everything becomes automated and you lose that human touch, particularly in certain businesses. So how do you know when you sort of need a human versus a system or a chatbot?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question. I think we need a blend of both. We need to be using technology in order to improve efficiency, customer response times. These days, I mean, if you just think about yourself, that we immediately jump off a website if it doesn't respond within like 2 seconds. And so use your own behavior in order to test whether it's okay or not. So from a customer facing point of view, what is it that you expect? What are the kind of responses you expect? Do you expect 24/7 contact with providers. So use yourself as an example to know where you should be using technology. I think in a South African context, we obviously have the highest unemployment rate in the world. And so we're all very sensitized to the fact that we need to be creating job opportunities. But at the end of the day, as a business, you need to be profitable first. So first of all, you need to be profitable, and sometimes that does mean using technology. When you're profitable, you can generate jobs. So remember, first jobs first, people people in employment second. And then to Anton's point, what we've learned over the years, we've been doing online work for many years, decades actually. And what we have learned and proven to ourselves is that you can't replace people, because people are what keep things real. And so there is that balance to say, yes, it's fine to have a chatbot for quick answers, but when we have a real problem or when we want to feel as though we belong, we need to feel that there's a genuine person behind that. And so maybe that's about the balance. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, absolutely. Another question, and maybe this one would be also for you, Kathy, around the people pillar. How do you work around a director who's underperforming and just comes up with excuses constantly? So that I assume when they say director, they would mean that it's actually like a partner in the business. So someone of a very senior level, who's not.
Yeah, that's tricky. So that's tricky. I mean, we often see this, sometimes we take on partners early in our business. We're inexperienced. We just think, okay, fine. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We kind of put the ring on the finger with the wrong people. And then a little bit down the line, we realize we've got a problem. So the starting point is that if there are expectations of directors just the same as any employee, there needs to be a really clear separation of roles. So is it really clear with this director what is expected of him or her? Is that written down? Is there a proper job description? Is there a proper kind of performance mandate for that director? Because it's only when they know and you know exactly what they're supposed to be doing that you can deal with the fact that they're not performing. So just as an ordinary employee, it's no good saying to somebody, you're no good at your job if you haven't defined exactly what that job is. So that's the first thing. Is there a clear definition of what they're supposed to do? So that you can measure that. And then I think secondly, if it's not working out, it is important to go into some sort of face-to-face consultation, maybe with a mediator to say, look, this isn't working. We need to move on to the next phase of our business, and come to some mutual agreement to exit the director. And sometimes that is the game changer in your business, because somebody that's sitting there putting a handbrake on your business can really hold the business back, and sometimes actually sink the business. So yeah, so that would be my advice there.
Thanks, Kathy. And sorry, while I've got you, there's another question that also sort of talks about the people pillar. And the question was, or it's more of a comment, but maybe you can share some insights, is that some entrepreneurs, some small business owners are very attached to the idea of I am the business and sort of being the jack of all trades and essentially, being everything in the business. Is this a good thing? Is it something that entrepreneurs need to consider, or what would your thinking around that be?
So what is the actual question?
It was more of a comment. It was just sometimes we as small business owners are very attached to their businesses.
Yes.
They think the business is about them and not the clients. That was the actual from
Okay,
Wendy.
so if it's about you and not the client, I think there's an obvious answer there. At the end of the day, a business can only succeed if you're providing a service or a product that people want. We have a big problem in South Africa, probably across the world, where people will start a business because that's what they want to do. You can't, the classic case is just because you like knitting, doesn't mean to say that what you knit is going to be marketable. So always about being client driven, so market driven. I think that one, pretty, I think you know the answer to that. But yeah, so definitely be market driven. But you have to enjoy what you're doing. But it's about saying, okay, I'm able to provide this service. I'm able to make knitting. I love knitting, if that was your thing. But now, who are my clients? And am I knitting in order to meet their needs, or I'm just knitting, and then I have a room full of knitting that I can't sell?
Great, thanks. And one thing that we always also share at Fetola is, as you grow and as you scale, the more you can make yourself dispensable, in the sense that not every single operational part of the business is reliant on you for its success, the more you create opportunity for growth. So maybe I'll take one more question if there are any questions. I know that there were quite a lot of requests in the chat for some information about what are some of the funding agencies and financing agencies. We've recently created a new platform called Hulu. So it's HLOOLO.com. And you can check out Hulu for particularly businesses involved in the green or sustainability sectors. There's a number of interesting resources and tools for accessing of finance there. So have a look at that. Also have a look at our own platforms. And I see that Puseletso.com has been popped into the chat. So I think I'm going to just conclude by putting up, I wanted to share with you all some opportunities for those of you that can take a QR code.
Anton, just before you close, Tanjiswa actually says they're really interested to hear about the jack of all trades, and I just do want to comment on that. I think I don't have a problem with entrepreneurs being jack of all trades. I think that sometimes you get two different types of entrepreneur. You get somebody that's really motivated. They love what they're doing. They're in the business because they love the business. They're in the business because they love to be the jack of all trades. I have no problem with that. I think that's good. It's inspiring. It's all about the startup phase. I think it becomes a problem when that jack of all trades has an aspiration to grow into a bigger business. And that so entrepreneurship is about being jack of all trades, about make it happen, in those early stages, it's appropriate. But if you want to build a bigger business, you have to let go of the jack of all trades and allow and learn how to delegate, learn how to replicate yourself, so that other people do those components. And then you move from being an entrepreneur to being a business owner. And I have to say that not everybody makes that transition. And some people that make it hate it, because their inspiration was being the jack of all trades, that kind of early startup phase. And for me, I have no problem with either. I think if you're a jack of all trades and you love it, and the business is keeping you, is making money for you, you're enjoying it, you get up each day because you love being at the center of things, enjoy it, carry on with it. It's just, if you want to transition to the next level, know that you need to move away from that, to learn to delegate, to learn to separate roles and separate accountabilities, so that you can actually build a team behind you and build scale. So I think that's probably a bit more, that makes it a bit clear, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Kathy.
Thanks, Anton.
So then just to share, you'll see on the screen, for those of you that are interested in learning a bit more about, what we do and potentially partnering with Fetola, please have a look there. You can see, you can visit our partner page on fetola.co, or you can just take a quick QR code that will show you where to go to register your interest as a potential partner for us. For those of you entrepreneurs in the room who are not already part of our tribe, please join our tribe. Please make sure that you sign up to get first insight into opportunities like this webinar, as well as just, interesting program opportunities, ecosystem news. We love sharing what's happening, awards and events and all sorts of things to help you grow your businesses. Lots of tools and resources are available via our different platforms. So yeah, please make sure that if you're not already part of our mailing list, that you sign up. There is a QR code there. Otherwise, it's fetola.coza, and just look for the entrepreneurs page. And then finally, I mentioned that Catherine has a new book that's being launched, The Art of Acceleration, which really speaks about our model and our approach to growing businesses just like yours, and how we've refined this methodology over the last 18 years of really focusing on building businesses that last, and learning what works and what doesn't work to shift the needle for all of you. So if you'd like to pre-order the book, it's a really great read. You can get it online, or you can get a hard copy. There is a QR code that you can scan there. We will make this recording available to all of you that attended today, so don't worry if you've missed anything or if you want to watch it again. We will definitely make it available. And yeah, I guess without any belaboring of further information, it's been a really wonderful session. I hope that you got value out of it. I know that I've enjoyed it. Really appreciated all your questions. The fact that there's still almost 300 of you online 10 minutes after the closing time is a really fantastic sign. So thank you to our panelists, Kathy, Puseletso, and Grant, again for your time. Thank you to the training team who put this all together. And most importantly, thank you to all of you for being the brave entrepreneurs that you are. And I hope that this gives you a bit of momentum as you go into 2025.